So, I recently threw up a poll on my YouTube channel asking, which did the grapplers prefer? BJJ in a gi or no gi? Now, the recent poll was a new one, but I had thrown up this poll before, and the numbers differ drastically. Initially, when I threw up this poll, earlier this year I think, probably before the summer, and the numbers came in at 70% said they preferred no gi, and 30% said they preferred the gi. Now, I am fully aware that no gi is on a rise, and that's kind of the sexy thing right now, and everyone wants to do no gi, and it's just the big thing. Jiu-jitsu is becoming synonymous with no gi. But I was still very shocked to see it skew so heavily towards no gi. So I just let it marinate. As my channel has grown, I decided to throw the poll back up onto my channel, and I got way more participants this time. So from a bigger sample, the number changed by quite a bit, by 10%, but it's still skewing towards no gi. So in the new poll, we've got 60% prefer no gi and 40% prefer gi. That's better. That leans more towards the center line. I'd be lying if I said I was shocked that gi would overtake no gi, because again, it seems to be the world of jiu-jitsu or grappling that we are in right now, that no gi is the thing. I think it goes hand in hand with what you're seeing as jiu-jitsu has grown so much as a sport, and all the big name competitions seem to be more popular in no gi. When I first started, the big professional or big name Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competitions were gi, and all the big name players were gi players. Now I feel like that's flipped significantly. But it beckons the question, what should you do? Should you train BJJ in a gi or no gi? Now me personally, for a long time I had very strong opinions about this as far as learning in a gi. I think you definitely need to be taught Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in a gi. I think for you to say that you do Jiu Jitsu, you have to do it in a gi. Now, of course, that's going to rub some people the wrong way, so let me explain. I'm not saying you're not doing it all, but in no gi, we used to refer to that more like submission grappling. Mainly because when I started, gi was like, the people in a gi, that was Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. You went to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu or BJJ class, you did gi class. The no gi class was mostly at the time the MMA fighters. A lot of the MMA fighters would go to no gi because that just made sense. They didn't need to train in a gi. So most no gi players when I first started were fighters. And if you were doing BJJ, you were doing it in a gi. Once you got competent in a gi, you had the strength and the confidence to cross over and go against the no gi players. Now, my professor still kind of believes in doing things this way as far as starting out in a gi and kind of just getting comfortable and confident in rolling, in the grips, and being safe, because I truly believe that starting out in a gi is important because I feel like it's safer. I truly believe that BJJ in a gi is a bit slower. You have a few more grips, so you have a little more control. Don't get me wrong, they're both very stressful. But from my experience, I believe that, and I tell people this, why I prefer the gi sometimes is because you can slow things down. You can hold better control positions. So I think people should learn in that slower, at that slower pace. Now, it's not easier. Some people argue that training in a gi is more intricate because there's so many more grips and so many more chokes with the gi and so forth. I agree with that, but at the same time I'll argue that they both have a serious degree of intricacy given the switch, when you switch over to no gi, all the different grips there and so forth. But I digress. What I'm saying is that when you're starting out, I think going in a gi is very important because it's just, I truly believe that it's just slower as far as your ability to control. And in that sense, it's a bit safer. Now, on the flip side of that, when I was coming up in no gi I think was just a bit more aggressive. Again, because mostly it was fighters doing it. A lot of wrestlers were going into no gi. They didn't want to bother with the gi. I always explained to people that no gi had more scrambles. There was more scrambles, there was more wrestling, and there was more impact as far as the body slamming into each other. And I don't even know if that's true, to be honest, because in a gi, the impact is the same as far as how much impact there is. It just might be a little different in how it takes place with the grips and so forth. But I just always saw no gi as just more fast and aggressive. And so to throw somebody directly into that, I always felt that was just a bit overwhelming and it would turn people away from grappling. With that said, do I feel you should do no gi? Absolutely. I don't think you should do one over the other. I think no gi is just as important. Now, what I said earlier about no gi being so fast with the scrambles and it's just more energetic, that's changed as well. Back when I was starting with no gi, again, it was fighters, it was wrestlers, it was intense. I'm not saying it's not just as intense, but it's a little more intense up here. If you watch no gi now, it's a little more calculated. It's a little slower. People are setting up grips and they're rolling into different positions. It almost sometimes looks like flow rolling until they get into a quick scramble. It's changed. It's changed quite a bit, and I actually like this new version. I like the smoothness of the rolls. I like that it's just not like two rams bashing into each other to try to just out-wrestle. Because that's what used to scare me about Nogi, and that's where I saw injuries take place. But I feel like the modern current Nogi is significantly different as far as pacing and energy. But with that said, it's so intricate in its own way. And it still has the potential to be aggressive and fast-paced, more so than Gi, so it could be very daunting for someone starting out. So I still feel that you should train in a Gi, get your fundamentals, get your basics. But I also think you should go and do Nogi as well. And I truly believe to be whole, to be complete as a grappler, you have to do both. I don't believe in picking one over the other. And honestly, I don't even believe in doing one more than the other. I know a lot of people do that. I know I did it. When I started, I was so in love with the Gi and I wanted to get so good at that I went to Gi classes 5 days a week. And then when I decided to try Nogi, I only did that twice a week. I wanted to be so good at Gi. As I got really good at Gi and started ranking up, I started bringing more Nogi in and doing it more often. But my advice to anyone considering one or the other, or doing one more than the other, I think you should try to do them both as much. You should do one as much as you do the other. Right now I roll 3 days a week in a Gi and I roll 3 days a week in Nogi. I try to balance it as much as possible. I just want to keep things as level as possible. And I truly believe that doing both, they complement each other. As different as they can be, your grips disappear in Nogi, your ability to scramble and get out disappears in a Gi. We could go back and forth with that all day. My advice, I think you should do both, and I think you should keep them as balanced as possible. Now, if you love one over the other, you're probably going to go to more Nogi classes than you do Gi classes, or vice versa. That's your choice, that's your prerogative. Do what you love. As long as you're grappling, I'm happy. But in the end, guys, I truly believe to be whole as a BJJ practitioner or grappler, you need both. You need to train in both. You need to train in Gi and Nogi. To me, that's like doing Muay Thai and only knowing how to box, but you have no idea how to kick. Or you're very good at boxing, but you have subpar kicks. You need to train it all. I think you're handicapping yourself on one side or the other if you're neglecting one side or the other. That's my 2 cents on the matter, guys. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll keep this thing going. I'll see you guys in the next video.